Good morning. It seems very appropriate this morning that we're talking about keeping your leads warm. Reason being is that we're in London. It's 8 a.m. on what will be the hottest day of the year. So, how are you going to keep cool today? How are you going to keep your leads warm? Actually, seriously, let me know in the comments. What are you doing in terms of lead nurturing? Is it anything at all? Or are you using channels beyond LinkedIn? So, we're talking today specifically about lead nurturing on LinkedIn. In the next 15 minutes, we've got some tips and techniques on how I would recommend nurturing leads on LinkedIn. And the reason for it is I'm being asked quite a lot about lead nurturing, more than usual. And so I've reflected on why that might be. And I think there's some really interesting, well, we're going through a really interesting time, particularly in terms of marketing budgets. There are conflicting surveys about what's happening with marketing budgets at the moment, because it is different in different sectors. However, Gartner has said that there is a 15% reduction in marketing budgets this year from last year. In fact, we're at levels that are the post-pandemic levels in terms of marketing budget. And it's easy to see why, because when there's high inflation, that reduces demand and spending, which does have an impact indirectly on B2B. Now, as I mentioned, it's not exactly the same in all industries. So do let me know in the comments whether what industry you're selling into or what industry you're in, and I can make this as relevant as possible to you. And actually, I'm happy to take questions as we go in the comments as well. So if I've mentioned anything and you want me to dig into that, just send me a comment. It takes a little bit of time for it to come through to me here in the studio, but I will certainly get to it. And what we're seeing, particularly in the agency world, there's a lot of agency bench press sort of surveys that have come around this year, showing that decisions being delayed is one of the biggest challenges for agencies. And I think that from a marketer's perspective, it's understandable that our customers are being cautious. It might be that the decision is being delayed because they are thinking, oh, well, let's see what our revenue looks like by the end of the quarter. It could be that just being, it's a bigger chunk of the marketing budget that you're about to spend, and that you're engaging more of your colleagues in order to make that decision. And actually, it could just be savvy marketing. It does cost less to nurture leads, people who already know about you and your company. And it's less time consuming as well than generating new leads. So a lot of people have a CRM full of leads. It could be opportunities with existing customers to cross-sell or upsell. So why are we going out for net new business if there's actually some easier opportunities closer to us that are already warm? And actually, online is now 56% of sales and marketing budget. I'm surprised it's not more, really, but that's still on the increase this year, because our buyers do have a preference for digital channels. And there are some crazy stats, like our B2B purchasing, 17% of that will be through e-commerce this year, and only single-digit percentage of a B2B buyer's time is spent with any single vendor. So the majority of your engagement with your customers is happening online. And so this means that we need to be maintaining market presence. We need to be really visible on our digital channels. And we've all seen versions of this, is Sticky Branding's version of where buyers are. At any 1%, we know that there are only 3 or 5% of active buyers in the market for B2B decisions. There are some that intend to change, but they're not yet at the vendor selection. And there are those that have a need, and those that don't know that they have a need yet. So we really need to be engaging with that, at least 70% of the pyramid, so that we are there and we're front of mind when they are ready to buy. And I would say that during economically challenging times, there are probably even fewer buyers than that. And so this does mean that we need to be focusing a little bit more on our future customers right now. However, what we're seeing is a reallocation of brand building investment going into short-term lead generation activities, because that's where when times are tough, you're thinking of immediate sales and immediate cash flow. But as we've seen, that actually we need to be focusing on the customers that are not ready to buy, because there aren't that many of them in the market. But another really important stat here is that 50% of B2B buyers are choosing the first vendor that adds value and helps them to solve their problem. So I think that lead nurturing is the place where you need to be front of mind at the very early stage, so that you're lining yourself up for those future sales. And what makes it even more of an opportunity is if your competitors are cutting back on investing in the activities and engaging early stage buyers, that is an opportunity for you to stand out, for you to add value. And when they are ready to buy, you're the first brand that they think of. So we're looking at two things here, really. We're looking at building long-term relationships, and we're looking at building brand trust and loyalty. But here's a challenge. 15% of decision makers in B2B roles change jobs every year. That is a problem when you're building your long-term relationships. And for us at Pitch One to One, our key stakeholders are chief sales officers and chief marketing officers. They have a very high turnover. Actually, CMOs have an average tenure of 18 to 24 months. Chief sales officers have an even lower retention rate. And so what that means is we need to be engaging with more than the one CMO, because what happens when the CMO leaves their role, or whoever your B2B buyer is, your potential deal walks out the door with them. And we do have an opportunity, because it's not just one person making the decision. Nowadays, there's 10 to 12 stakeholders on average making purchase decisions when it's a high value deal of 50,000 or more. So if you're looking at these enterprise deals, it's not just the key decision maker. And I know from training salespeople that very often we're only in touch with one or two people in that account. In fact, the average number of buyers actively engaged in a sales process is about 3.6. And that's why marketers are talking about lead nurturing. How can we do this at scale? Because you know that you're only touching a quarter of the people that will be involved in your decision. So I think that for lead nurturing on LinkedIn, you need to be engaging with more than 20 people within a target account. If it's an enterprise account, certainly. And you really need to be thinking about early stage buyers rather than pushing the lead generation at a time when people aren't buying. Stand out by adding value and being consistently there with your content that can really help people. Because if you can be engaging at a multi-level, and some call it multi-threading, but you've got this multi-stakeholder engagement, then even as individuals are moving roles, you're going to have a strong brand presence within that organization. And that will make you a lot more stable to get those early stage buyers and through to being customers. So I'm looking at LinkedIn today. As you know, LinkedIn is our speciality, and it's a great place to be nurturing leads. I would love to hear from you in the comments about any other tips and tricks on LinkedIn or outside of LinkedIn for LinkedIn lead nurturing. And these are mine. So my go-to is Sales Navigator. I know not everybody has a Sales Navigator account, and some of these filters are available on linkedin.com, but these are my favorite two sections of the lead filters. And very often they are ignored because we look at geography, industry, company, job title, because we want to get to our buyers first. But the way to get to our buyers is to find a path into the company. And these are the sections that help us to do that. Is there a first degree connection of yours in that company already? It's amazing how many times we don't look at that. Are there people working for that company that are a connection of somebody that would vouch for you, whether that is a colleague or perhaps one of your customers? Do you have somebody that is a past colleague? So perhaps you've worked with them, or even at a different time, but you've worked in the same company, that common ground, and they can really help you out. And if you are members of some fairly niche groups that you know that people within that organization could be a member of that group as well, then the shared experiences is quite useful. I'm members of things like digital marketing communities, which doesn't really give us anything too specific to be looking at there. On the recent updates, it gives you reasons to connect. So if somebody has changed jobs, and this is in the last 90 days, then they're going to be more open to looking at ideas, looking at their strategy, talking to vendors. And if somebody's been mentioned in the news, then that gives you a really great conversation starter. But my very favorite, and maybe anybody who's been on my LinkedIn lives before will know that posted on LinkedIn in the last 30 days is my favorite toggle of all on Sales Navigator, because this will give you people who are active on LinkedIn and people that are wanting to drive attention to their profile, and they've just got something to say. And if you are talking to them about the things that they want to talk about, they're going to be much more open to your approach. So I would always be using that toggle. And we've got a really good question here. Let me just pause for a moment. Given their strategic importance and limited time, what are the top level nurturing tactics we can use to engage with them quickly and efficiently? Thank you so much for your question. We will move through this. We've got 5 minutes where I'm going to be really running through those questions. So if I can just change the view so that we can see this a little bit larger there, great. So another way to find an alternative way of finding ways in, if you go to your Sales Navigator account page, you can find recommended leads, and that will combine some of these great filters. So people who have recently been promoted, past colleagues, and so on. And so that can be a really quick way from the account page. And then when you found those people, and these do not necessarily include your decision makers at this point, is you want to create the lead list. These people would be department relevant. There's no point in engaging with Barbara, who works in the in the whole branch of Marks and Spencers, but you want to make sure that these are people that could be sitting with your decision makers in understanding from the same meetings what the company needs are, but also they can be a great way in. So if you find those easy way ins, what will then happen is you find that those people are connected to the decision makers that you're wanting to get through to. So you grow your second degree network within that account. Second degree people will connect a lot better than third degree. So your goal should always be to sort of land in your account and then grow your connections from there. So that's why you need to find that easy way in. And then if you are focusing in on an enterprise deal, you would want to be looking at, I would go straight to Account IQ, which is a Sales Navigator advanced feature, which gives you strategic priorities, main business challenges, and headcount insights that are actually really good. They tell you what that might indicate about the priorities of the company, and it gives you the sources there as well. And if I find something that's interesting on there, I will start exploring that, looking at the source. I go to Perplexity AI, have a look at that, and you can ask, you can go to Google, of course, and really dig into some of those things, so that when you're engaging with a lot of people in that account, you've actually got the context of the company and you can tie it into their strategic goals. And then your daily activities would be to go to that lead list once you've set that up. And you can see there's somebody here that put a post out an hour ago. And this is a great opportunity. They're on LinkedIn right now, and you can engage with something that they're wanting to be driving attention towards. And how I would do that is I would be commenting on their post. A comment could be a supportive, perhaps they haven't had any other comments, perhaps they've only got one or two. You're going to really stand out with a comment. And if you add value onto their post, then even better. Not all posts are ones that you can add perfect insights and value onto, but actually just the act of being supportive on their post goes a long way to generate goodwill. And it gives you a conversation starter to be going in and getting connected, or to be following up in the inbox. Now, anybody that is key and you've identified as likely to be a stakeholder, a relevant person in the mix, then you're really going to want to overlay the specific insights about the remit and the priorities of the role, but also the things that this person values. Have a look at the recommendations they have given, look at what they've put on their profile to get specific insights on that individual, and be considering both of those things as you're approaching your stakeholders. And concurrent to this, think about what you're posting about. If you can plan your content based on these company priorities. And when I posted last week about don't expect your salespeople to be thought leaders, I was posting that because I'd been talking to one of my prospects who was saying that they want their salespeople to be thought leaders, that actually, it's not just down to the salespeople to be selling on LinkedIn, that actually your senior execs will get more traction, and they really ought to be the thought leaders. I'm not saying salespeople shouldn't be active, but it needs to come from the leadership team as well. And so that content had a specific goal for a specific company. And because I know that my newest connections are most likely to see my post, particularly if I've been engaging with their posts and following up with them in the inbox. And if you then keep tracking them, you can re-engage over time. Things that people are putting out, if they're quite active, it can lead to conversations which can build trust, which can then lead to intelligence on the account in this case. Or you can be jumping onto a call, even if they're not ready to buy and you're adding value and you're problem solving. That's how you can get yourself front of mind. And so in summary, we need to identify the best path in and save into lists. That's your setup. And then this 5-step process is engage with their content, find reasons to connect with them, and then publish content that will resonate with them. Make it deliberately something that will stand out in their feed. Use their words back to them. And then follow up in the inbox. Without the inbox, you're going to find that your lead nurturing isn't as effective. And then just keep on going, rinse and repeat, track and re-engage as well. And that's really how you get to engage with 20 plus people day in, day out, really attracting those early stage buyers with your consistent content and standing out from competitors, because you're really becoming a trusted advisor and you're one by one building brand in a really targeted way in the accounts that you'd really love to work with. So that's it from me. If there are any questions, please put them in. It takes a little while for them to come through here, so I'll answer them in the comments. And please contact us at Pitch One to One if you want any more advice about lead nurturing. If you're not finding time for sales teams or your senior execs to do it, then we can help with that as well. But I'm going to keep my promise and end my live. I'll keep my promise. We're at 18 minutes, but hopefully there's been some value for you there. And I will see you next time. We've got the QR code.